What's good, BitRushers? My name's Kyler, and this is BitRush Crypto. If you haven't done so already, make sure you sub to the channel and click the bell to be notified on all future content. 99 cents will get you early access to most videos. Today's video is going to be covering who is buying Bitcoin. So during this dip, obviously someone's buying up the Bitcoin, otherwise the price would just continue to fall. So we're talking today about who is buying up all of the Bitcoin. And we're also going to cover a little bit of stock to flow at the end. So if that sounds good, please do stick around. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up on this video. You can find in the description below links to my investment projects, the Rush Fund and the DeFi BRAINZ Fund, as well as some of my social media links and all my other great stuff I got going on, including a crypto domain sale. This month we're selling greendragons.crypto. So if you guys are interested in buying that domain, you can find the link for that in the description below as well. Alright guys, here we go. We're going to start out over at the chart today while we talk about who's buying up Bitcoin. So as you guys can see here, there are several points where the price looks like it's going to drop and it has this huge wick and just gets bought up, right? Several times that happens. If somebody wasn't buying the Bitcoin at these levels, the price would just continue to fall and fall and fall. So who is buying, right? That's what we're going to kind of talk about today. So to start out talking about who's buying and who's selling, we need to kind of define these. Within the trading world, we already kind of have a good explanation of this, of who's buying and who's selling, and that is basically just the greed and fear index. And so essentially it doesn't matter if it's the top or the bottom. If you are buying, you are greedy, right? And if you're selling, you are fearful. We're going to kind of keep that as our base reference here for who's buying and who's selling. And we're going to look at the market here. So the smart investors get fearful at the top, right? They get fearful here. Looking at the RSI, we can see we're out of the range. We're in the overbought stage, right? So as we enter this overbought stage and we're at the top, smart investors get fearful here, okay? And they start saying we're overbought, we're, far beyond where we should be in the limits of, moving the price action, and eventually we're going to have a crash here, okay? Now the unsmart investor, right, says, oh my God, we're pumping so high, we're at 64,000, I don't want to miss out on that, and they get greedy and they buy here, okay? And then the price crashes. Now on the opposite end, right, we have down on the bottom of the RSI, when the price drops back down and hits this level here and here and here, someone's buying that up, right? Someone's buying that up. And whoever's buying that dip, that drop down, they are greedy. They're saying, oh, look how low the price is, I want to buy that price. The unsmart investor is saying, because they bought at the top and they never sold, they're saying, look how much money I lost. Oh my goodness, I need to sell out before I lose any more money. And they are fearful. Okay, so it really doesn't matter how the cycle is. If you are selling, you are fearful. And if you're buying, you are greedy, okay? That's just kind of the way that we've set the index here within the trading world. And so to think about who's buying these bottoms, guys, it's people that are greedy. They're probably the better investors, the ones that got fearful at the top and sold the top, and they have bags of USD. So that's one profile we could kind of put on the people who are buying the bottoms here. They are greedy people. They're not fearful, right? They're not fearful that it's going to continue to drop. They're getting greedy and they want to buy these drops. Maybe they'll buy more if it continues to drop, all right? So let me erase all that here. Okay, so the next lens or, kind of layer I want to put on this is a fiat versus crypto lens, okay? Okay, so I want to talk about fiat whatever your normal currency is in your country. If you're in the US, this is going to be USD, right? So fiat versus crypto, in this case BTC. All right, so we're going to assume that if you have a lot of fiat, right, you have a lot of USD or whatever currency it is you're using, then you have the ability to buy these bottoms, right? So if you don't have USD, you can't buy those dips. At the same time, if you don't have Bitcoin, you can't sell these tops, right? So here you need BTC to profit. And here you need USD or whatever your fiat of choice in your country is. So we have to kind of think about that. Is the people who are buying these bottoms are people that have more USD than Bitcoin, or they have enough USD available to purchase more Bitcoin. All right. And just kind of thinking about that, guys, there's a lot of people in the world right now, a lot of institutions, or a lot of wealthy people, a lot of businesses that have a lot of USD value. They're looking at the current economy, they're seeing the inflation, they're seeing the money printing and the stimulus is happening, and these people have more USD value than they do Bitcoin. They don't hold any Bitcoin maybe, or they only have a small amount. They bought in, maybe for them, a small amount's a couple million, and they have several $billion, right? So thinking about that is the people with USD to spend who don't have crypto are the ones that are buying, guys. They don't care if the price continues to go lower and lower and lower and they lose their USD value. Why? Because they already have enough USD. They have plenty of USD. Not that they're, just looking to lose USD, but these are people that are long-term investors that see the value of crypto and can see that they need more BTC, right? And the people who have BTC and not enough USD are the ones that are selling the top. If you have both Bitcoin and USD, you're not selling the top. If you have plenty of USD in the bank, you can afford to pay for all your bills, your house, your cars, you're living a comfortable lifestyle, and you have some Bitcoin, you're most likely not selling off at the top. Why? Because you don't need the USD, right? If you needed the USD, if you have more Bitcoin than USD and you need the USD, then you have to sell off your Bitcoin. If you don't, then you can continue to hold and just continue to buy more Bitcoin on the dips, right? So those are two different kind of profiles of people. Early investors in crypto maybe that need to sell off and get some USD because they don't have enough USD even though they have a lot of Bitcoin, and people that didn't get in at all that have a lot of USD that now need to buy and get some Bitcoin. Okay, so that's just kind of the way I'm looking at it. Is people buying are people with USD, people selling are people with Bitcoin. Okay, so now let's combine those two things together, and we can see that the people that are buying up the Bitcoin here, guys, they are the people with USD value who are greedy. Okay? And I don't mean this in like a bad way. If you're buying Bitcoin, I'm buying Bitcoin right now. My dollar cost average in, so I'm buying either way. But I'm buying a little bit more at these levels than I normally would. Why? Because I'm getting greedy. It doesn't mean that you're like a bad person or anything like that. Like I explained before, if you're buying, you're greedy. If you're selling, you're fearful. The people buying these bottoms are greedy people with more USD than Bitcoin, okay? And I don't necessarily have, more USD value than I do Bitcoin value, but I have more USD value to spend. And the reason why I'm spending my USD value, the reason I'm getting greedy at these levels, even though we may continue to dump, look guys, let's be honest, no one knows the future. Bitcoin could continue to dump all the way down. Some people are saying back down to like 20,000 it could possibly go. And if it goes down to 20,000, people are going to continue to buy. The greedy people with USD will continue to buy. Why? Because this isn't the end of the market. People have a long-term vision. They know that markets go up and down. There's ebbs and flows. They're willing to play the market in multi-year cycles. Okay, I know for most of us, if you don't have a lot of money, you're under $1 million. Definitely, I'm in that category here, well under $1 million. But if you're under that category and you don't have a lot of value, seeing a lot of, a couple $100,000 come and go is a lot of money for most of us. But if you have billions of dollars, guys, that's nothing. And so people who have billions are willing to, ride out these little dips because they see the value in the future that it's going to be 10x from here. Okay. And, like I said, they have enough USD to pay their bills and do whatever. So if you're in that category, if you have like everything set in your life, I'm not saying you have to be like a millionaire, but you have like a job, you can cover your bills, and you still have a little bit of extra, then maybe you should be greedy, right? Never financial advice on this channel, guys, but I'm going to get into the reason here in a minute about why I'm still greedy and why I'm still buying Bitcoin at these levels with the rest of the greedy people with extra USD. So let's take a look at the stock to flow model. If you guys haven't seen this before, I've covered it several times on my channel. I often mention dollar cost average with stock to flow, and this is the reason why, is because over the long period, we have this logarithmic scale here, and Bitcoin seems to follow it pretty damn accurately. Okay, so since the beginning of the tracking, it was, far below it, but they just kind of like got it going here. The line is the stock to flow model, guys, and the dots are the actual price of Bitcoin. And you can see generally, they do fall below here sometimes. We have fallen below the line. There's a big dip below the line here, another dip below the line there, and we're currently dipping below the line here. But for the most part, over the entirety of the course of history of Bitcoin, the price has stayed right along this line or above, right? Oftentimes it peaks up above, and the peaks tend to happen in the late yellow, early yellow, late yellow to green, right? So in between that phase of yellow to green, here it was a little bit later. It was more in the green stage. Here it was right after the orange into the yellow that we had the peak. Again, here we had the same thing. And so right now we're kind of coming into these light orange dots, guys. And the dots represent the days until the next halving. If you guys aren't familiar with what the Bitcoin halving is, it means that the amount of Bitcoin that are produced every 4 years is cut in half. It's called the halving. There's a fixed supply. So at the end, there'll only be a certain number of Bitcoin ever created. You cannot create more. And every 4 years the amount reduces. This is what gives it its intrinsic value of digital gold, because it is a deflationary asset versus the USD, which is continuing to print money and continuing to be an inflationary asset, which is why you often hear people talk about Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation. Even if the price doesn't go up, just the fact that your USD value is inflating and going down, holding on to something that you know is going to stay the same or basically deflate, is that hedge. Now, coming up here, I just want to explain what these prices are, okay? This line right here across is the $10,000 line. This was our last bull run, the big peak in 2017, where we went up over that into 20,000, right? We got up to it and we pumped way up above it all the way to $20,000, and then we dropped back down to like, $3,000 or $4,000 here, guys, and then worked our way back up. So there's definitely some range within this line of where we could go and where we could stay. It doesn't have to be exactly on it. But if we look at the next line here and we follow that one over, that's a $100,000 line. Okay, and we currently find ourselves up here. We were at about 64,000. We were getting close to it, right? Almost a little over halfway there. Definitely, 2/3 of the way there from 10,000. Like 64,000 is much closer to 100,000 than it is to 10,000. And now we're having this little correction and dropping down below. Okay, so you can see here, before we have these big pumps, or even when we have these small ones, we have a small one, we dip back down, we have a small one, we dip back down, and then we have a big one. And it kind of does that, chops up and down. So having a little drop down here, guys, is nothing to be concerned about. If anything, it's a good, healthy sign that we're now getting ready for our next pump. It could be another little pump before another little drop. It could also be one of these big pumps, and this could be the one that pushes us up over that $100,000 value, okay? But basically what we're seeing is that right here before 2022, actually, a few months from now, we're still off from it a couple months according to the scale. We're looking more, towards the end of summer. That's what a lot of people were saying, like September, August. But if you look, that's only where it hits that mark. And so sometimes it doesn't actually pump up above that until after, right? Until after it kind of goes over. So if we hit this here, it doesn't mean that we're going to already be there. It might take a few months. It might even be into 2022, guys. So looking at this, that gives us plenty of time into 2022 before we could have that move up. We could kind of pump a little and drop back down and dance here, and it could not be until the middle of 2022 that we actually have that big rally up over 100K. The thing to keep in mind though, guys, is eventually it will happen, okay? And then the cycle is going to start over again. We're going to have another halving in another 4 years. So moving into that, we're going to have a little bit of a decline or a flattening out. It's just naturally the way that the Bitcoin works. But looking into the next cycle, we could see here that the $100,000 mark, that range, guys, is going to be for 3 years, from 2022, 2023, and then we have the next halving in 2024. Okay, so sometime in that year there, we'll then have another big move up to the $1 million, which is why if you guys are in this for the 5-year plan, if you guys are planning on holding long term, 5 years, 10 years even, this will go up even higher, right? We're looking at this as every Bitcoin we own at this price is going to 10x from here, minimum, right? So at this level here at 30,000, we'll just round down a little bit and we'll say we're at a $30,000 Bitcoin. That's only 1/3 of the way to 1 million, which would put you somewhere in probably about 2024 range, right? Like somewhere in here, we'll possibly be making another move up and starting to go up. Definitely after 2025, 2026, we should be able to 10x easily, guys. Now, this may even happen in this cycle. If you look in the past when we've just pumped way up beyond the line that was at about 10,000, we doubled that up into the 20,000. We could easily go here up over 100,000 into $200,000-$300,000 range before dipping back down along that line, maybe coming back down into the 60s and 50s here. Okay, so this is just kind of my analysis of where we could be. Definitely looking at that 1 million mark here by about 2026, right? If we follow this line and it stays accurate as it pretty much has in the past, the entirety of all of Bitcoin, then we can say by about 2026, which isn't that far off, guys. That's really not that long from now. It's almost 2022 now. We're talking 4 years from now minimum, and your Bitcoin should be worth a value of $1 million. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that we are anticipating inflation. And so we've already had about a 30% inflation today. If that continues at this rate, by the time we're up here, the value of $1 will be worth about a fifth or a sixth of what it is today. So having $1 million in 2026 will be about the equivalent of having $100,000 today. Okay, so that's another thing to keep in mind here, is kind of makes it more realistic for people to think about. It's like, no way it's going to go up to $1 million in 6 years. Well, the part of that is the inflation that's built in, because like I said, at that point, $1 million will only hold the value of about what $150,000 today holds. So what you can buy with $150,000 today is probably the same thing you'll be able to buy with $1 million in about 5 to 10 years. So seeing the value go that high isn't that unrealistic, guys. I don't want to downplay it and make it seem like it's not that big of a deal as far as gains. It is. If you guys are continuing to invest, you can still make some large growth. The other thing is, guys, if we're looking at this chart and we know we're going to have another peak out here, we can take profits on those super highs and buy back in during these long bear winters, what they call the bear winters, coming down from that green into the blue. Those are the months we want to be accumulating. We want to be greedy here, guys, okay? This whole time along that green to blue into the red, that's when we want to be greedy. Right now, we want to start getting fearful as this price comes up over 100K, okay? So for me, I'm still greedy right here at this price. I'm going to start getting fearful when we hit over $100,000, and hopefully not just 100,000. My prediction for the year, again, guys, is $180,000 for Bitcoin before the end of 2021. That's what I put out there as a prediction. Again, it may happen sometime after the new year 2022, the beginning of the year there, but sometime around this range, I fully expect the price of Bitcoin to hit $180,000. At that point, that's where I'm going to get fearful and I'm going to start to sell off some of my Bitcoin. Not all of it, obviously. I'm going to keep a good chunk, but I'm going to sell some of it off, probably about half, take some profits, and look to accumulate back in during these lower cycles. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, please do slap a thumbs up on it. Share it on social media. Share with a friend or family member, anyone you think may like the content. Make sure you're subbed to the channel with the bell click to be notified on all future videos, and 99 cents will get you early access to most content. Happy crypto. Let's get that coin.